Good evening, everybody. This is the City of LaPorte Redevelopment Commission meeting. Today's date is August 28th, 2024. I'm calling the meeting to order. We still please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Roll call. I myself, Brian Chalik, is present. Actually, we have a full complement. J.T. McDermott is here. Damon Gassaway is here. Jenna Francisconi is here, and Betsy Parkins is here. Everybody is accounted for. I'd also like to make for the record that our high school liaison, or our high school, Porte Community School liaison, Jim Arnold, is present. Got that?
Yep.
Okay. Public comment. Do we have any public comment? Nothing? Sure? Okay. Public comment is open and closed at 5:17 p.m. Minutes, July 31st, 2024, regular meeting. Everybody have a chance to look at the minutes. Any corrections, deletions, additions?
I'll make a motion to approve the July 31st, 2024 regular meeting minutes.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
A motion and a second. Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor state by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes. Wait a minute, where's my pen? There it is. Claims. Has everybody looked at the claim docket for today's date? Not much there. Any questions on this?
I'll make a motion to approve the August 28th, 2024 claim docket.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor state by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0. Old business, we have none. It's a good thing because we got a lot of new business. First thing, public hearing and approval of a resolution of the City of LaPorte Redevelopment Commission authorizing the execution of a lease between the City of LaPorte Redevelopment Authority and the City of LaPorte Redevelopment Commission and related matters. I believe we need to talk to Andy.
Yeah.
Andy Mauser.
Open the public hearing?
No?
Yep.
Okay, I'd like to open a public hearing at 5:19 p.m. Anybody have anything to say? No? Okay. I guess I can let Andy go ahead.
Yep.
Andy Mauser. Can you hear us?
Yep, can you hear me okay?
Yep, we can hear you. Could you give us a little synopsis of this?
I will. I'll try to be brief, but certainly happy to answer any questions. Again, Andy Mauser with Baker Tilly. This is the fourth and final approval in the approval process for financing for improvements to Boyd Boulevard, Park Street, and 39 North. You met at your last meeting to adopt a resolution approving a form of lease with the Redevelopment Authority for the projects. The City Council has met and approved a resolution in favor of the project. Redevelopment Authority met earlier this evening and approved their resolution. And so tonight is the public hearing and then adoption of a resolution on the lease, and then at that time, with both Redevelopment Commission and Redevelopment Authority approvals in place, the lease for the financing can be executed. You do have a resolution here this evening, just a short resolution that highlights the financing. Again, this is financing for those three projects with the intent for it to be fully repaid from Redevelopment Commission TIF revenues. Your resolution this evening does make reference to the Redevelopment Authority's approval of a maximum bond of $24 million. We do anticipate that amount should come in slightly below $20 million based on current project estimates. On the first page, you'll see a paragraph referencing your intent to pay rental payments to the Redevelopment Authority from the TIF. at a rate not to exceed $2,450,000. And I would note that those payments should come in more around $2 million annually, and that $2 million level will be for a very short period of time of about 3 years. Your average payment will be more in the range of about $1.5 million. So the majority of those years will be well under the 2.4 million and actually 2 million estimate, again, through the life of the financing. And then it also approves a maximum term of the lease of 25 years. And we currently anticipate proceeding with a 22.5-year financing, which will correspond with the expiration of many of the portions of your existing TIF areas. So that's essentially kind of the approvals on the resolution. This would allow us to then move forward with bonds and then proceed with potentially getting at least the first portion of bonds closed for Boyd Boulevard and Park Street by early November. So with that, be glad to answer any questions.
Any questions for Andy?
Nope.
Thank you, Andy.
Thank you, Andy. I will make a motion to approve the public hearing and approval of resolution of the City of LaPorte Redevelopment Commission authorizing the execution of a lease between the City of LaPorte Redevelopment Authority and the City of LaPorte Redevelopment Commission and related matters.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Motion and a second. Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, state by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0. Approval of resolution of the City of LaPorte, Indiana Redevelopment Commission declaring an official intent to reimburse expenditures. Who may I give that to? All right.
Explain this if you want, that's fine.
It's on you then. Craig?
Okay, so this is just simply a resolution that needs to be passed as part of the, just kind of the general operation of the redevelopment commission with the, that would basically allow us to pay ourselves back for some of the money that we've expended on the 39 North, Thomas Rose Industrial Park and Boyd Boulevard project that we had to pay up front. So some of those costs related to the infrastructure that we've already committed to making payments for before. This would allow us to repay ourselves from the bond proceeds as part of that process. So that's all this is.
Questions? Hearing none.
I'll make a motion for the approval of resolution of the City of LaPorte, Indiana Redevelopment Commission declaring an official intent to reimburse expenditures.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor state by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0. Approval of Newport Landing Real Estate Agreement. We don't need to read all of that, do we?
No.
No. Mr. Cook.
Yeah, good evening to the Redevelopment Commission. Bert Cook, Executive Director of the LaPorte Economic Advancement Partnership. So the real estate exchange agreement that you have in front of you was drafted by Attorney Hagenow. When we were talking about the area in Newport Landing that sort of runs at the front of the property where you have Smoothie King, Anytime Fitness, Dr. Zhang, the dental office. And so this is in regards to Dr. Zhang's property. So you'll remember we closed that transaction. They're under construction. But as we dealt with those parcels there, we realized that there were some easements that we require and NIPSCO needs to utilize in order to extend utilities into these parcels. And as an adjustment for taking that easement, we're also giving Dr. Zhang some additional property to the north of hers to expand, to give her the full parcel that she needs to construct her facility, but then also taking the utility easement that we need at the rear of the property. So that agreement memorializes that transaction. She has obviously signed that, and we're asking you to approve it tonight and sign it as well. happy to answer questions if you have those about the transaction.
Nope. I'll make a motion for the approval of the Newport Landing real estate agreement.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Further discussion? This is that little sliver of land, isn't it?
Correct, there's the
Right.
parcel addition is to the north, and then the easement is at the rear of the property.
Okay. Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor state by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. Approval of proposed 2025 redevelopment commission budget.
Okay, so last Wednesday, we had a budget workshop where we went over most of the details related to the budget. I say most only because there are just some shifting around of things that ultimately end up in the same final numbers, but pertaining to the way that particularly the infrastructure dollars that we discussed are allocated. It's a little bit confusing because we're allowed to spend out of any TIF district, but we're not allowed to budget out of any TIF district, if that makes sense to you. So there's got to be enough money in the fund in order to budget that fund. So I had to basically move some of the infrastructure dollars into other funds, but it all ends out working out as the same final number. And so there's two different things here for you. The first one is the white sheets that don't have the green on them are similar to what I handed out to you last Wednesday. These are the comparisons between 2024 and 25, just so you can see the 2 years side by side. The only difference between this and the white and green sheet that I passed out to you that looks like this, this is actually the final budget that actually matters, that you'll sign, that's what gets submitted to city council and uploaded to the state. The only difference between this and this is that there is an infrastructure number that shows up in TIF 2 of $1 million, and we decided to split that $1 million into $750 in this account for TIF 2 and $250 in TIF 3. So it still equals $1 million, it's just in the two different TIFs instead of the one. And again, we can spend out of any TIF, because we have a consolidated allocation area. We just can't budget out of any TIF, for the purpose of making sure that everything balances properly. So the only difference between those two documents is that. So I would call your attention then to the green. On the first page, you'll note where it says special redevelopment debt. There's 3 lines at the top there. That is a general obligation bond that the Redevelopment Commission acts as a pass-through. Basically, we used our bonding authority to accomplish that. It's not backed by TIF funds at all, so the Redevelopment Commission is not responsible for paying those that bond and the affiliated fees. So it's not in your other budget that I put together for you as far as TIF funds. It's in the overall budget, though, that is involved. That's why that's there. Then you'll see TIF 3, which consists of just professional services and infrastructure. Again, you'll see that $250 there that we talked about. TIF 1, these are just the way that they're set up in Gateway, so they're a little bit out of order. But TIF 1, we have professional services, a small bond paying agent fee for one of the specific bonds, land, a bit of money there for land, infrastructure, and then we have debt service for the 2015 B lease rental bond and the 2020 lease rental bond, as well as the debt service principal for the 2021 bond and the interest for the 2021 bond. The difference there is that we pay lease rentals as one full payment, and we pay regular bonds as a principal and an interest. That's the difference. TIF 2, we show the money there for professional services, for land, again, that's $750 for infrastructure, and then the debt service for 2 different bonds. First is the 2015 A bond that was previously approved, and anticipating the approval of the bond for the 39 North Thomas Rose Industrial Park and Boyd Boulevard projects, that payment there. Now, and then just to note, that payment is expected to be larger next year because, in 26, because it'll be 2 equal payments instead of one smaller payment and a larger payment. It's just the way the bond was structured. So that'll be closer to $1 million next year, or in '26, sorry. And then finally, TIF 4, just small amounts there for professional services and infrastructure. So happy to answer any questions you have about this, but that's it in a nutshell, based on what we discussed last week and small adjustments that were made, as I described, based on the clerk treasurer's recommendations.
Motion?
I'll make a motion for the approval of proposed 2025 redevelopment commission budget.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Motion and a second. Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, state by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0. Approval of proposed 2025 redevelopment commission spending plan. Mr. Phillips?
A new requirement of redevelopment commissions is to put together and approve a spending plan for each of the TIF districts located in the city on an annual basis. That needs to be submitted and uploaded to the state's gateway system no later than December of each year. But our process involves the approval of our budget. Our process begins in September with the city council. And so we just want to include our spending plan, which mirrors our budget, in the process of getting the approvals with both the budget and the spending plan when we submit that to the city council.
One and the same.
One and the same. So the only difference, again, that I would note is that $1 million, again, is the 750 and 250, and I will need to adjust that form accordingly. So I will get your signatures on that after the meeting, because I don't have that on this form. But, so the only adjustment to what you're seeing there would be the 750 in TIF 2 and the 250 in TIF 3. That equals that $1 million. For now, I'm going to adjust those numbers by hand, and then if I need to adjust those, I'm saying if I need to adjust those later, I will do that again. Any questions you have on that? That gets submitted to the city council along with our budget.
Motion?
I'll make a motion, I'll make a motion for approval of proposed 2025 redevelopment commission spending plan.
Do I have a second? Second. Motion and a second. Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, state by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0. Approval of additional appropriation request. Mr. Phillips?
Yes, so this is a request for an additional appropriation to be able to close out the expenditures necessary for the remaining portions of the Truesdale Ave and Clear Lake Loop projects, as we discussed last week at the budget workshop. So this is the request to send a resolution to the city council for their approval. It has to be advertised, so the clerk treasurer has to advertise this, and then there'll be a public hearing at the council level for an additional appropriation request for $800,000 of available unappropriated balance for that purpose.
Further questions?
No? I'll make a motion for approval of additional appropriation request.
I have a second.
Second.
Motion and a second. Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, state by saying aye. Opposed? Passes 5-0. Approval of transfer resolution. That'll be you again. Mr. Phillips.
Yes, okay, so this is a request to transfer funds. We've had a substantial amount of additional professional services needs this year due to the 39 North legal and financial fees, essentially, that have cost us significantly more than we budgeted for last year. So it's necessary for us to transfer funds for the purpose of TIF 1 to cover additional needs that we would normally have. But we've gone above and beyond because of the costs related to the 39 North annexation and the utility acquisition. TIF 2, we anticipate the need for some additional professional services budget to cover extra steps that have been required as part of the EDA grant process. There were some additional steps required, additional documentation that's needed in order to close out that process with the EDA. So we would need additional funds on hand to be able to pay SEH for those remaining items that you approved partially at the, you remember you approved partially at the last meeting. Items, there were certain 3 items that we approved. This would cover the remainder of those items that are necessary for engineering services to complete that. And then, but we couldn't approve that until you had the funds on hand. And so this is a request to get that approved, that transfer approved, and then we'll come back and get those items approved by SEH after that. And then finally, we need to have a little bit more money in professional services in Eastgate TIF 3 and Town Square TIF 4 to pay for the regular attorney services that we split across all 4 TIFs for Newby Lewis, Kaminsky and Jones. That's pretty much all that comes out of those accounts is the legal services for the Redevelopment Commission. So any questions you have, I'm happy to answer about that.
I'll make a motion for approval of transfer resolution.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Motion and a second, further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, state by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0. Approval of engagement letter with Barnes and Thornburg for 2024 Redevelopment Authority lease rental revenue bonds, which we just talked about. Is that you or Bert? Doesn't matter. Andy, is he still on? Kurt,
I can explain this.
make it fast.
I can explain this. This is really simple. So this is basically an engagement letter to engage Barnes and Thornburg to represent the Redevelopment Commission, I'm sorry, the Redevelopment Authority in the ways that are necessary to finalize the paperwork and the process for the bonds that were just approved. And the remaining steps. You have a timeline in your packet that lays out all the steps necessary to go through for the bond. So it's necessary for us to hire Barnes and Thornburg, which is customary when we do a bond as bond counsel to finalize that process for us, and work in conjunction with Baker Tilly, who we already have, contracted with for these services, just to get through the rest of that process for the bonding.
Any questions? I need a motion.
I'll make a motion for the approval of engagement letter with Barnes Thornburg for 2024 Redevelopment Authority lease rental revenue bonds.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, state by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0. Other business, we have none. Damon?
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Brian,
Oh, wait a minute. Mr. Cook?
Oh.
can I come to the mic just for a second?
Sure.
Craig did a really great job on laying out the budget and your spending plan, but there's just one thing I wanted to add to that. Appreciate Craig's work. So everyone here understands, and then those that watch the meetings as well. So the process of putting that budget and that spending plan together doesn't occur in a vacuum, right? So Craig has been working with the clerk treasurer, other department heads, the mayor, Andy Mauser, his team, for a number of weeks now, putting this together and making sure that we have the funds that we need to do the things that accomplish the goals of the Redevelopment Commission. And then obviously your spending plan links in with that as well. So I just want to make sure that you understand that that doesn't occur over one meeting. It's not, something that one individual puts together, but rather the entire team of people that are at your disposal, making sure that the Redevelopment Commission is achieving its goals and ultimately supporting the city. That all occurs together. I just wanted to make sure I highlighted that so you're aware, and that those that watch the public meeting as well understand that there's a number of people that are involved in the process. Thanks.
Thanks, Bert. Good job, Craig.
Thanks for everybody's job. Okay, Damon,
All right, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. No further discussion. All in favor, state by saying aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you.